Hi guys, this is a video about how driving can be extremely catchy. And what I mean by that is when you're sat with somebody that gives you a lift all the time, perhaps your parent, they've driven you for years and years and years, parts of their driving style are going to be really catchy, and you're probably going to do them because your subconscious mind just thinks, oh, well, that's how to drive, okay? So, for example, steering is one of the most catchy things that can happen. So if you have been a passenger in your parents' car or somebody that's given you a lift for years and years and years, you're probably going to adopt their steering technique because you've seen it a million times and you have logged it to be the norm, right? So if people who give you a lift do this and they just turn corners like this, it's very likely that you're going to catch that and then you're going to deliver it on your driving lessons. Now, the pull-push steering technique, which is the way that your driving instructor has taught you how to drive if they're teaching you proper steering techniques, is passing the steering wheel to each other. Now, I've made videos about this before. Crossing your hand on the steering wheel isn't necessarily going to get you any minors or any serious faults. It's the position that the examiner is looking for. So if your position is absolutely perfect and you're doing this, then it's fine, right? So if I've taken on like somebody who's lost their license through drink driving, drug driving, like, you know, all the bad stuff that we should never do. If I meet somebody who's lost their license for any reason, it's unlikely that I'm going to fix their steering and tell them to do the pull-push technique, because as long as their position is great, then I'm not going to mind them crossing their hands a little bit, all right? But I'm just saying that if, as a learner, you've seen somebody do this, you're probably going to bring it to your driving lessons because you think that's the norm, right? So that's the first thing. You may also catch off them like this kind of steering technique as well. You may catch off them this as you're driving. You may catch off them that you hold the steering wheel and hold the gear stick with the other one. You may catch that, right? Steering is really, really catchy, okay? But the main one that I want to talk about is the one where you hold the steering wheel at the bottom. This one is not safe, okay? Now this, if you do this on your driving test, you're just going to annoy the examiner, okay? I've made a video about how not to annoy the examiner. You don't want to be doing that. I've made a whole video about it, but this is just going to look arrogant and like just don't do that, right? And if you hold the gear stick like this, it just looks a bit arrogant. If you're a learner and trying to get your full license, I don't recommend it, guys. Have both hands on the steering wheel and actually, sorry, it's running out of battery. Have both hands on the steering wheel, have control of the car, right? But if you're holding the steering wheel at the bottom, this really is not safe. I've had somebody fail for this before, which I'll go into in a minute. But if you're driving around and you're really chilled, yeah, with your driving instructor, and you just start like holding the steering wheel at 6 o'clock and just like steering like this, right? Yeah, oh yeah, I feel well chilled with Roz, yeah, she makes my lessons all like calm and chilled, yeah, all that stuff, yeah. Bigging myself up. But if you are doing that, you're basically driving as if everybody on the road is not going to make a mistake. And there's a lot of people making mistakes. So if you're just driving around a little place and you're just doing this and you're not really concentrating and it's all, your position may be a little bit like flowy over the lines as well. You're not going to have very good position with this. And it's just totally thinking that everybody's driving correctly. If anybody pulls out of a junction or makes any type of mistake, you'll control from the bottom at 6 o'clock to get out of their way. Yeah, if some kind of nightmare happens, this is terrible control. How am I going to get away? Now, it does say somewhere in the highway code or in one of my driving books somewhere that swerving is not the safest option if something happens. Stopping, they recommend stopping in a straight line is much better than swerving for obvious reasons, right? Because if you swerve, you haven't got time to check your mirrors and then there might be some nightmare that you take yourself into, right? But if you've got it's difficult to have any conscious awareness when you're dealing with an emergency, right? So if it was safe to do so and you can see a hazard, you would check your mirrors and then move. And you've got loads of control from the top of the steering wheel. You need to hold the steering wheel from a 2:45 position or a 10 to 2 position. So you're basically holding the steering wheel on the rainbow, okay? No lower down than the rainbow, yeah, not under the rainbow, yeah. Why have I got that over the rainbow tune in my head now? Oh God. Okay, so on the rainbow, 2:45 or 1:50. Sorry, my steering wheel's not quite straight because I've just parked the car. All right, it's 2:45, and that's going to give you that control. So if somebody's holding the steering wheel at the bottom and just flouncing around like this, oh, that feels so horrible, yeah? It doesn't, for me, it puts me on edge because I'm just like, my student is not totally in control. They're looking after my life as well as everybody else's, and we literally can't move the car properly if some kind of nightmare happens. Like the other day, I parked the car to make some footage for YouTube. Parked the car, set up the camera, did it all, pressed the go button, started to move off, like just driving down the road. Somebody pulled out in front of me instantaneously, made a total mistake, pulled out in front of me, and I emergency stopped. Now, I've got to say, it was tempting to put that out there, but I made a promise to myself when I went on YouTube that I would never have a channel where I show people cutting me up, making mistakes. I see it all the time. I'm a driving instructor. People are constantly making mistakes. This person pulled out in front of me and then I did a complete emergency stop and he said sorry to me. It is unkind and not correct for me to put that out there and include him as a human being with his number plate. We all make mistakes. Like, that would just be so unkind of me. I'm not going to be doing that, right? We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes in so many different ways. We walk along and we trip over. We make all sorts of mistakes. I'm not going to be showing somebody up in that way, right? But when that happened to me, I stopped in a straight line, right? But there are occasions where you probably won't be thinking properly and there'll be a movement and you want control of your wheel when the weird things happen to you. You don't want to be flouncing around holding it at the bottom. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that one of my students failed for this, right? Years and years ago. So he'd already failed for something else. This is such an old story, but basically my student was on test and he got given the parallel park. And my student thought that the place that the examiner had given them did I say control stop? I'm so sorry. The examiner gave him the parallel park, okay? And my student decided that where he'd been given the parallel park was not a very safe place. My student failed there, unfortunately. It was a busy road, okay? And my student was absolutely furious about it. He thought that the examiner should not be giving him a parallel park on such a busy, nasty road. So he was like black cloud over his head, like, and he started holding the wheel at the bottom and just like disrespecting the rest of the test, basically. And the examiner was annoyed as well because he just thought, well, why is this kid like doing this? Because he'd just started going, I don't care anymore, I'm not going to check any of my mirrors. So he basically was disrespecting the safety of the inside of the car, everybody outside. And he got another fail for holding the steering wheel incorrectly, and the examiner was pretty annoyed. They had this moment at the end. My student said to him that he shouldn't have been doing the parallel park there, and the examiner was annoyed. The energy was absolutely horrible. I've not had it very many times, but that was pretty nasty, that situation. But look, I've made a whole video about annoying the examiner. Not a good shout, yeah? You don't want to be driving like this on your exam, like trying to make it look like you're chilled about things. This is not a good stance, yeah? You've only got half control on your steering wheel, yeah? Like, present in a business manner, yeah? You don't want to be holding the gear stick necessarily if you're 17 years old and you're trying to get your license for the first time. It just looks arrogant, guys, you know? Like, present, you know? Present like you actually are trying to, you know, be respectful of the situation and actually respect like the safety of the examiner, the safety of you, the safety of other people holding the steering wheel. So steering is very catchy, yeah? So like, just make sure that you recognize that you're copying people in your life. Your instructor will probably draw your attention to it. Another thing that's really catchy is the way that you use your handbrake, yeah? So if somebody is with somebody when they put their handbrake and let's just say their parent does this, you hear all those clicks, yeah? I don't know I hope my microphone can pick that up. But if you're accompanying driver on a daily basis, whenever they stop, yeah, you can hear all these clicks. You're blatantly just going to catch that off them, because you're going to think that that's the norm, that's the way to put it on. Now there's opposing conversations about this, about how to apply your handbrake. I got taught as a driving instructor, and I always teach this, that you put the button in and it's a silent move to the top. So button in, silent up to the top, and then you release it at the top. So I was taught as a driving instructor that you've got the ratchet system. I call it a hairbrush. If you kept on doing this on the side, the hairbrush bristles would just eventually, like, over time, just wear down and damage it. So it kind of goes click, click, click like that. So I got taught to take the ratchet out, place it up to the top and lock it into place so it's there. So it's a silent put up, yeah? So I've made videos about how to put your handbrake on silent. But if you're with somebody who goes click, click, click like that, that's going to come into the car. You're going to catch that. There's loads of things that are catchy. So this video is about steering and the safety of you holding it at 2:45 or 2:50. The examiner is going to expect this. Do not hold under the rainbow. Hold on the rainbow. Really important. It is not safe also to hold it at just 12. Yeah, that's not safe either, okay? Because you haven't got proper control of, like, good steering. Because how can you go all the way around if you need to? Yeah. Sometimes my students, if they're like, sometimes they signal with their right hand like this as well. Or sometimes they just get completely like they just like knock themselves up. You just need to pass the wheel to each other, okay? So watch my video about how to pull push steer. Maybe I'll put some kind of card here. Maybe I'll put it at the end of the video, or I'll do something. But 2:45 or 2:50 is the correct way of having control over the situation and being able to react properly and safely to danger. It's catchy. Be careful that you don't catch things from other drivers and you bring it into your car. Listen to your driving instructor. You know, if they've been a driving instructor for years and years and years, right? Or they know the system enough, they're going to know what is going to be accepted on your driving test and what looks good. Okay, 2:45, 2:50, and then drive. All right, do some research about it if you need to, guys. I really hope this helps you today. And of course, I shall see you on the next one.